Hey, Pro-Life Jen, and welcome back to the Kristan Hawkins Show. Today we're talking about more Planned Parenthood closures. 8 more to be exact. Minnesota and Iowa, get excited. I'm also going to talk about the big, beautiful bill. You guys helped get this bill that could defund Planned Parenthood of more than 80% of their funding, of Medicaid funding, which is their biggest portion of funding, through the House. By the way, everyone said that it was impossible. But now I have to give you the latest updates of the battle as this bill has made it to the Senate. I also want to talk about something that, in your For You page, if it's anything like mine, you're probably seeing the word natalism a lot, especially since a deranged nut job tried to blow up an IVF clinic in California recently. His manifesto actually goes after the pro-life movement. That's why the news story dropped really fast, because they realized the guy wasn't pro-life. Shock, But anyway, I'm going to go back and I want to talk about that story. And speaking of IVF, President Trump is still pursuing a misguided plan to make IVF have easier access and funding. And we're still waiting on the official word from the White House about what their edict's going to be. But I'm going to talk about how IVF doesn't really solve the problems it claims it does. And you're going to be surprised by some of the facts I'm going to share with you. All right. Number one, first story. I know this is just like a continuing trend in my podcast. Every week, it's more clinic closures from Planned Parenthood, which you have to think about is actually exceptional because we haven't actually defunded them of any money yet. They're self-defunding. Their clients aren't coming back. And by the way, a lot of these clinics that they're closing Planned Parenthoods in are in blue states. So I was at the Courage Under Fire Gala last weekend, sitting across from Matt Walsh and all the big guys everyone loves. And I burst out in a cheer because I got a text saying Planned Parenthood is closing 8 more clinics in Minnesota and Iowa. If you're keeping track like me, I might as well just get a whiteboard at this moment. That means that we know of 21 Planned Parenthood facilities have announced their closing since the beginning of 2025. It's amazing. So far this year, we've seen closure announcements coming out of Illinois, 4 in Illinois, 4 in Michigan, 1 in San Diego, 2 in Utah, 1 in Vermont, and Planned Parenthood's long-term flagship location, the Margaret Sanger Center in Manhattan, New York. If you don't follow politics, only one of those states is a red state. The rest of those states are in deep blue states that are actually funding Planned Parenthood with their state taxpayer dollars, and yet they still can't stay alive. They still can't make it work. Hey everyone, this is your show host, Kristan Hawkins, and I have an incredible opportunity for you to make a real impact for life this summer with diapers. On Saturday, June 28th, we're going to be gathering in Washington, D.C. for the National Celebrate Life Weekend. And I do not want you to miss this. We're going to be hosting America's largest diaper drive, sponsored by the only pro-life diaper brand out there, Every Life. Here's our goal. We want to raise 392,715 diapers, one for every life lost to abortion inside Planned Parenthood facilities every year. And instead of just displaying these diapers on Capitol Hill and then demanding that our legislators finally vote to defund Planned Parenthood of our taxpayer dollars, we're going to add an additional twist. At the end of our rally on Capitol Hill on Saturday, June 28th, we are then going to give out all of these Every Life diapers for free to local residents in the Washington, D.C. area. This is massive. Defunding Planned Parenthood is finally possible with this new presidential administration and Congress, but we are going to have to push harder than ever before to make sure our legislators, especially those guys up in the Senate, know Planned Parenthood doesn't deserve a single cent of our taxpayer dollars. And I believe this massive display of diapers, one diaper for every baby Planned Parenthood kills every year, will have a resounding impact in the hearts and minds of our leaders, and quite frankly, will be the best way to tell Planned Parenthood to go fund themselves. This event is going to be completely free. All you have to do is head to CelebrateLifeWeekend.org right now and sign up for the National Celebrate Life Weekend Rally. Come stand with me, Abby Johnson, Lauren Mazikia, other pro-life leaders, and be a part of a historic moment and help provide support to families in crisis and need right now in the Washington, D.C. area. But if you can't make it to DC, I'll try not to cry, you can still make a difference. You can go to CelebrateLifeWeekend.com, and instead of RSVPing to attend the rally, you can donate to our National Diaper Fund. Every dollar you donate is going to go directly into buying pro-life diapers that will then be given up. So every dollar counts, every diaper matters, because every life is worth fighting for. This is our chance to not only show our leaders in Capitol Hill that we are serious about finally defunding Planned Parenthood and ending the slaughter of more than 392,000 babies every year in our country, but it's also a chance for our movement to show what it is that we really do and put our thoughts and beliefs into actions and to deeds by giving out free diapers, hundreds of thousands of free diapers. So please join us at the National Celebrate Life Rally on Saturday, June 28th, or donate a pack of diapers that will be displaying on Capitol Hill. Go to CelebrateLifeWeekend.org right now. All right. Anyway, so according to Axios, the following 4 Planned Parenthoods in Iowa and the 4 in Minnesota are going to start closing because of financial strains. It's the Ames Health Center in Iowa, Alexandria, Minnesota Health Center, the Apple Valley Health Center in Minnesota, the Bemidji Health Center in Minnesota, the Paul Bunyan doesn't want abortions, shock. Cedar Rapids Health Center in Iowa, Richfield Health Center in Minnesota, Sioux City Health Center in Iowa, and Urbandale Health Center in Iowa. Fantastic news. Couldn't have come at a better time or to a better group of people. I love a good Planned Parenthood clinic closure story, as you know, and that gets me through the rest of the week, I think. All right. Speaking of closing, it's time we have to talk about closing the deal on defunding Planned Parenthood. So I was up on Capitol Hill last week in Washington, D.C., watching in real time on C-SPAN the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill out of the House of Representatives. It was 2 very late nights. I was actually up on the Hill talking with representatives before and after this happened who were literally exhausted. Actually, after one meeting I had with one representative, he was like, okay, thanks for coming by. We'll help you. And he ushered us out of his office, told his staff, don't let anyone disturb me. And he closed the door, turned off the lights, and was going to take a nap on the couch because he had been up literally all night voting. So if you were ever shocked, they actually do work on Capitol Hill. I mean, they do a lot of crap we don't want them to do, but they are working. But anyway, so we were there. I was watching in real time. It was like 6:15 in the morning on Thursday morning when the bill finally survived all the amendments, all of that jazz, and was actually voted on by and passed because of one vote. One member, Republican, who should have voted yes, fell asleep. I don't know. That's the story he's sticking to. And we had a couple who voted present, but by one vote, the bill passed out of the House, and then it went to the Senate. The significant part about this is in the months leading up to last week, I was told repeatedly from friends, insiders on Capitol Hill, that getting the Republicans, especially since there's a group of about 20 Republican pro-choice moderates, to vote on this bill was going to be literally impossible. Like there was nothing we can do. It wasn't going to work. I was told by a couple people it was a waste of money. Nanner. They were wrong. I was right. Speaker Mike Johnson deserves all the praise. He got this done. Amazing. It was literally a miracle because like I said, there's a group, there's a very slim majority in the House of Representatives of Republicans. They needed all the Republicans to be together on this. And there's like 20 pro-choice Republicans. But it worked. They're more preoccupied with like the SALT tax and getting deductions because they live in atrocious Democrat states that tax everybody way too much money for their property taxes. So they're trying to get higher tax deductions for people's property assessments in blue states, which everybody else in the country doesn't really like because you're essentially giving these people free money for living in Democrat states. But honestly, I don't care. Give them whatever they want when it comes to the SALT tax, like defund Planned Parenthood, right? So amazing progress. Now it's headed to the Senate. And the Senate procedure is a little bit wacky. In the House, we had to get this bill out of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Then it went to the House Budget Committee. Then it had to go to the House Rules Committee. Then it went to the House floor. There was a lot of stuff going on. The Senate's going to be a little different. So we've announced at Students for Life Action, we are actually going to score the vote on the entire budget, one big beautiful bill. It's something we've never done before. It's certainly not going to make me popular in Washington, D.C. Meaning, as long as defunding Planned Parenthood is in that final budget that goes to the Senate floor, we will score it as a pro-life vote. So if you are a Republican who are like, I'm a libertarian, I hate any money going to anyone from taxpayer dollars, I'm going to vote against this bill because of that, that's going to be a pro-choice vote, a pro-abortion vote in our scorecard. We're not here playing games. This is for all the marbles. Defunding Planned Parenthood. I mean, my conversations with a couple of senators last week after this bill voted out of the House was, listen, do not throw the babies, the 402,000 babies that Planned Parenthood just announced they killed last year and they bragged about, out with the bathwater. There may be things you don't like in this budget reconciliation bill. There's certainly things I don't like when it comes to finances in the budget reconciliation bill. But honestly, there is like one thing we have to do, and that's defund Planned Parenthood. That's the top priority. So now that's in the Senate, you're like, well, what committees it goes to? It's not going to any committee. There's Senate negotiations. I guess that's caucus meetings. That's a lot of people talking to people in the press, then people sending emails. There's basically negotiations that are happening right now. And you've started to see like certain senators like Rick Scott from Florida, who's Republican and always says pro-life, has now said he's 100% no against this bill. That's kind of concerning. They're going to negotiate, and the senators are going to try to get better deals for their constituents or their whoever gives them the most lobbying money. They're going to do that. Then the bill is going to go to the Senate floor, and there's going to be something called a vote-a-rama. They think they're so clever on Capitol Hill. It's basically where the Democrats and the Republicans, mostly Democrats, are going to start throwing as many amendments they can to attach to the bill. And then these are going to be like off-the-wall amendments, like fund pig abortion research or fund transgender coloring books for 2-year-olds. Like, it's going to be crazy stuff. They're going to throw amendments to this, and they'll have to like vote on each amendment individually. It's going to be like an up all night type of thing. And after the bill passes through the Senate and survives all the vote-a-rama and all the amendments of the crazy senators, it's going to go back to the House. If you haven't watched the Schoolhouse Rock, How a Bill Becomes a Law video, I'm pretty sure it doesn't cover budget reconciliation because it's super complicated. Even people on Capitol Hill don't know what the process is, but it's a good kind of refresher for you, okay? So it's going to go back to the House. Whatever changes the Senate's made to the bill, the House then has to revote. This is why when I was on Capitol Hill last week, I was telling the senators, don't make too many changes, because the more changes they make, the more discussion is going to happen in the House. And then the House will have to decide, do I like the changes? Are we going to vote for them? Or are we going to accept some changes and not some of the other changes? And then if they change what the Senate sent them, the House has to send it back to the Senate. At the end of the day, they have to conference, and the two bills, the House version and the Senate version, have to become the exact same language. Then they have to be voted on together, and then they finally make it up to President Trump's desk. He wants to have all this done by July 4th. Insiders on Capitol Hill are saying it's probably going to be until August. We know it could take even up to like end of September. That's when, when there's usually government shutdowns. That's when the Congress has to decide on their budget. So they technically kind of have until end of September. I hope they get this done by July 4th. That means there hasn't been that many changes or that much fighting, but we shall see. There's a lot to go into this. And for the naysayers out there, first of all, they said getting the bill through the House of Representatives was going to be impossible with defunding language. They were wrong. Now there's other people, and even some people in the pro-life movement are like, well, this bill doesn't really fully defund Planned Parenthood, and therefore it's not perfect, blah, 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 blah. Okay, one, this bill isn't perfect because it's about spending money, and you got a bunch of people and their special interests on Capitol Hill trying to spend money. But two, they are right. The bill isn't a complete defunding of Planned Parenthood. Why can't it be a complete defunding of Planned Parenthood? Because this is a budget bill. This isn't like a bill to defund Planned Parenthood like Joni Ernst and others have introduced. This is a budget bill. So the best you can do in this bill is say, if you're going to get Medicaid money, health insurance for poor people, which is, by the way, over 80% of Planned Parenthood's government income. If you get Medicaid money, you can't be committing abortions. You can't be giving out wrong sex hormones that sterilize gender confused teens. That's why you've seen the pro-life movement say things like defund Planned Parenthood and big abortion, because there's this thing called the bird rule. And if it just says like defund Planned Parenthood right out in the reconciliation bill, it will literally get struck out. The parliamentarian will strike it out of the House and the Senate. That's what we don't want to have happen. So we need to be very specific that no vendor can be committing abortions, be sterilizing our young people, and receive Medicaid money. That's fine with us. That defunds them 80%. 40% of their income is from us. Taking away 80% is huge. I mean, go back to the last section of this podcast. 21 clinics have already closed this year without any defunding. They are in dire financial straits. This will be massive. This is also why you've heard me say things like defund and debar Planned Parenthood, right? Because if we get this done and it does pass the Senate and the House votes again on the Senate version and Planned Parenthood is defunded of 80% of all their Medicaid funding, something we've never been able to do before in the pro-life movement, then you can go after the 20%. We can go after it individually at the Department of Health and Human Services. The Department of Health and Human Services could start saying, no, you can't get any Title 10 funding Planned Parenthood. That's $50 million. They've already been frozen of $20 million of that earlier this spring because of their DEI hiring practices, which are now violating the Trump administration. They can start going individually, grant by grant, to get us to 100% defunding. Or we can do something called debarment, meaning we already know that Planned Parenthood is a bad actor, and one government agency, any of them, can say, listen, we're debarring Planned Parenthood, meaning they cannot apply or receive federal funds or do business with any entity that receives federal funds up to 3 years. And if one government agency does that, it applies to all government agencies. And guess what, people? We already know they violated multiple laws. Like, we already know they've admitted in Texas double billing state Medicaid. We already know from video proof from our good friend David Daleiden that they're trafficking human body parts for cash, and now they're doing it for patents. We also know that during COVID, you might have forgotten, they illegally took the Paycheck Protection Program grant money from SBA, the Small Business Administration. Do you remember during COVID? They gave out government money to employers, small businesses, to keep employing people so there weren't mass layoffs. And you might be able to be a libertarian, be against it or whatever, whatever. We can talk about that. But Planned Parenthood wasn't eligible to apply because they're a $2 billion entity. Guess what? Because they have like 70 some affiliates, they had their affiliates individually apply and they met the threshold. So that's how they like scrape through. And then when we found out that they took $80 million of taxpayer funds, we in the pro-life movement raised the ruckus, and the Biden administration was like, it's not a big deal. And they never repaid it back. We're already working on debarment. So is the job done once this happens? No, we'll have to go for full debarment. That would mean, as an entity, they're fully defunded. But this is a massive step. So if you are a praying person, which I hope you are, now is your time to pray. If you are a fasting person, good time to start a fast. Now is the time to fast. Great time to start. If you are an action person, which you wouldn't be an action person if you don't listen to my podcast, because who could stand me for this long every week? You need to call your U.S. senators now and demand that whatever they do with the SALT, tax, or all these other things, that final bill that passes the Senate floor must have defunding Planned Parenthood and big abortion in it. From June 2nd to July 4th, Students for Life of America and Students for Life Action is going to be hosting the One Big Beautiful Month of Pro-Life Activism. And every week, we are going to be giving you specific action items to join us to keep the momentum up on Capitol Hill for defunding Planned Parenthood. There's going to be calling. There's letters to the editor. There's going to be lit dropping at churches. There's going to be in-person activism. There's going to be joining us at our National Celebrate Life rally on Saturday, June 28th on Capitol Hill with a massive display of set diapers with one diaper representing one baby Planned Parenthood kills every year. It's going to be incredible. There's a lot you can do. So I encourage you right now, go to studentsforlifeaction.org/defund and sign up to get involved. You're going to get an action kit. You're going to get weekly marching orders from us at Students for Life. And me specifically, make sure you go to studentsforlifeaction.org/defund, sign up, and tell everybody you know to sign up as well. This is literally for all the marbles. This is it, people. This is the closest we've ever gotten. I've been working for this since I launched Students for Life 19 years ago. This is it. This is not a drill. This is not hyperbole. This is not a fundraising pitch. I had somebody complaining the other day. We sent a text message about signing up to join us, and they were like, Students for Life is fundraising. And it was literally a text messaging asking people to make phone calls to U.S. senators. Like, just know if you're going to like insult me, make sure you like click the link before you do it. You know who you are. You're not listening to my podcast anyway. But anyway, this is it. This is not like fake. This is not like, just, oh, we could do this. We could literally defund the abortion Goliath in the United States of America. We could do something that everyone has said for literally the 19 years of Students for Life America's existence, it was impossible. We've already done it. We've already passed it out of the House. Now we just have to pass it through the Senate. But we need your help, and I need you to be involved. I need you to be more involved than you've ever been before. Like, this is, I cannot overemphasize this point enough. This is it. This is it. All right. Speaking of Planned Parenthood, one more reason to defund them is because their founder, Margaret Sanger, thought giving birth to undesirable children was, quote, the greatest sin in the world. Watch this.
Do you believe in sin? When I say believe, I don't mean believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
Well, I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin.
First of all, you aren't born a delinquent or a prisoner. You are made one. Second of all, she's talking about me and my husband and our 2 children with cystic fibrosis because we apparently are birthing people with disease and have no chance of being a person. Yeah, evil person. Margaret Sanger, I mean, she's responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of human children, over 10 million children that we've specifically funded with taxpayer dollars. Yeah. Margaret Sanger's worldview has infested our culture in ways that I think we're going to now start seeing that we've never seen before. And it's going to be very tangible and very present. I've been seeing it on college campuses since COVID, and it is alarming. Take Guy Barkas, the 25-year-old who attempted to blow up an IVF clinic in California and ended up killing himself in the process on May 17th. Now, this was like really big in the news that day when it happened. I think it was a Saturday. And then once everyone in the mainstream media found out his real intentions, because they all thought he was a pro-lifer. And then when they all found out he wasn't, the story just like went away. If you're like, yeah, that was a big story for like a day and then went away. This is why. Let me tell you why. So Guy believed that life is suffering and therefore is unethical to bring life into the world. He believed it was ethical to end lives because ending lives prevents suffering. Because to him, suffering is the ultimate evil, or was. That's why he called himself a pro-mortalist, meaning he was pro-death. Some also will call this view as anti-natalist. I'm going to break down some of these terms for you, and I want to go into some of the conversations I've been having on college campuses, and I'm sure if you've been on college campuses, you've been having them because they're alarming. This is an alarming trend, and quite frankly, this is what happens when you live in a post-Christian worldview, post-Judeo-Christian worldview, because when there's no God, there's no point, then it's very easy for people to see as suffering as the ultimate harm. So natalist. A natalist, or somebody who's pro-natalism, is somebody who believes that more births is a good thing. Usually they come to this conclusion because they see the fertility rate declining and they know that economic prosperity relies on fertility as being above replacement value. I mean, we're seeing this now and you've seen a lot of people talking about this. They may also want more births in order to carry on their specific culture. But usually being a natalist isn't referring to someone who is like pro-life, who simply believes that life is inherently good and that more life is a good thing in of itself. Usually the natalists or people who have natalist views see it as a means to an end. So Elon Musk is probably the most celebrity natalist figure in our country today. Musk is very open about wanting more births and has no moral qualms about using things like IVF, surrogacy, or fathering like a ton of children with a bunch of women himself to achieve his goal. He's not pro-life though, right? And we hope that that changes. He's pro-life in, I think, later in pregnancy, but not at the beginning of pregnancy. He just simply wants to see more births. For natalists, more births is a means to an end of whatever end they're trying to achieve. Economic prosperity would be Elon Musk's goal, or the continuation of civilization, which is, these are all good things. But for a pro-lifer, our end goal is seeing more life come into existence, because life is a good thing. Life is created in the image of our maker, and that life should be protected. We believe that life is inherently good and is therefore worthy of protection. We believe it's wrong as pro-lifers to just kill human lives and not protect them. We are not concerned, I would say, as a pro-life movement, with our mission when we wake up in the morning. The reason we go and pray in front of a Planned Parenthood and get active on campuses isn't because we simply want to increase the birth rate and create economic prosperity. No, we are doing that. We're sacrificing because we want to protect the most innocent among us, who are created in our Creator's image, who already exist and shouldn't be subject to violence and discrimination simply because of their age or size or location or circumstances of conception. The pro-life worldview, as opposed to the natalist worldview, could have reached people like Guy Barkas and others like him who don't know their true value. Because the reality is that if you cannot see the value in yourself, you're going to have a really hard time seeing the value in other people, even inconvenient other people, or tiny inconvenient other people, or tiny inconvenient people you can't see. That's the chop. That's the whole problem here. Barkas, in his manifesto that the media started reporting on, talked about how he did not consent to being born, and that because he views bringing new life into the world was a violation because it causes humans to suffer. So he viewed the act of destroying embryos, humans, in the embryonic form, created the IVF clinic, as ethical because he was therefore saving these humans from potential suffering. Barkas wasn't wrong in believing that life is suffering. All of us will suffer. It's part of the human condition. He was wrong in believing that suffering makes life not worth living. Why am I focusing on this one random psycho? It's because he's not just random. He's not just one person. While very few individuals, I would hope, would take it to the extreme of trying to blow up an IVF clinic and children within that clinic, this anti-natalist, pro-mortalitist worldview is now shared by many, many people. Here are some sobering examples of that.
When did your development begin as a human?
I mean, yes, I'm a bio student. I am aware of the process of gamete fusion, man. I know what a zygote is. That's not a that's not a moral qualifier.
That's when. Wait, hold on. So, it's a human, and human development begins at conception. Therefore, human life begins at conception. When did your life become worthy of protection?
When I became actually conscious and able to speak.
So, like, able to speak. So, like, 2 years old.
I think I was a bit earlier than that. Yeah.
No, babies usually don't speak till about year and a half. So, if I murdered you at 6 months, that's okay.
Yes.
And you're a bio student at UC Riverside.
Yes. Okay, so
let me ask you a question. Would you save 100 dogs' lives or one human life?
I would save one dog over your life, but...
No, tell me why a human... and we'll close with this. The fact that he's a bio student at this university shows the horrifying moral rot happening in higher education, and Trump should defund all these schools as evidence. Thank you very much.
Way to go, Charlie, spin that into another action. Absolutely. I see this all the time. I see this all the time. It used to be this thing on college campuses where people would tell you that the baby in the womb wasn't a baby. It was a blob. It was a clump of tissue. Using the old 1970s rhetoric of Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. That was the thing. Since COVID, that has changed. Now, more times than not, people will admit, yes, it's a baby. Yes, it's a member of human species. I just don't care, and I think you can kill it for one reason or another. Who do you think we should kill?
What?
Who do you think we should kill?
More children. I think we should have more children deaths.
Why do you think we should have more children?
Too many of them.
There's too many of them?
Too many of them.
Let's back this up. So do
I
you
think
have
that
the Bill
there's
Maher
overpopulation.
position? So Bill Maher was doing a debate on abortion. He said Lamar's position that it does kill a child, but you're okay with killing it?
I have another question. I'm not.
Could you just said?
I wasn't listening because all you say stuff is bullshit. But
you just said a shocking statement that we should have more child's deaths. I need you to back that up. What about a child who was just born yesterday? Is it legal and should it be legal, or I guess it's just moral to suffocate that baby that was just born yesterday? Because you just said you wanted more children deaths. Maybe? Did you just say maybe?
No.
I thought you just did.
No, it was a joke. I've actually, what? I have a serious question this time.
Oh, sure.
The sad thing is, some people are like, "Oh, she was totally lying." I don't know if she was totally lying at the beginning. I had a long conversation with that young woman. I think she's a woman. I don't think she was lying. Let's watch this last one.
What if I told you that the most unethical thing you could do is have children? Well, maybe not, but there is a philosophical justification for why our generation are increasingly choosing not to have kids. And the philosophical theory is called anti-natalism, or the idea that it's inherently unethical to have kids. The reasoning behind this theory is pretty simple. When you're in the womb, you cannot consent to being born, and you cannot consent to being brought into a world, especially that is now facing, genocide, climate change, discrimination. You can't choose the family you're born into, you can't choose the body you're born into, you can't choose the socio and economic issues that you might face just through the family that you were born into and the place you were born into. You can't choose any of that. 99% of your struggles in your life are going to be determined by how and where and when you were born, and your parents decide all of that for you. Our generation are increasingly realizing that saying that you want to have kids, or you're ready for a family, or you want to have a big family, none of those are actually sufficient reasons for bringing another human being into this world. A human being that never had a say in whether or not they were brought here, and a human being that is not going to have a say about any of the issues they face as a result of being brought up by you and your family and wherever you live. So yeah, anti-natalism is a very strict theory, and it argues that, no matter what you do to try to mitigate the effects and the consequences of bringing this child into the world in a non-consensual way, it's still inherently unethical to make that decision. What do you guys think?
Well, that's how civilization ends, if everyone adopts this view. That's right. This is a result of 2 generations now of a country in the United States of America that has refused to acknowledge the right to life of preborn children. For the first 9 months of your life, even though you are fully human from conception, America has said that you are fair game to the most heinous and violent types of death that you could ever experience as a human being. Poison, starvation, suctioning you apart piece by piece with a vacuum, dismemberment with a sofa clamp. Every child born here in America could have experienced any one of those deaths at any point prior to the moment of birth in the United States of America. Even in post-Dobbs America, the most our federal government will do is not stop a state from trying to protect children within its borders from abortion. And it's even questionable since that does that because it's not even enforcing federal drug trafficking laws to stop pro-abortion states from illegally shipping chemical abortion pills into pro-life states. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself how it might affect you physiologically, emotionally, to have grown up knowing that you were literally disposable from the moment of your creation? That the only thing standing between you and the abortionist sofa clamp was the fact that your mom wanted you? How can we ask a generation of people that have survived abortion to believe that life is inherently good and worth living when they themselves know their lives were once on the chopping block for 9 months? That's an honest question. Whoever thought we could kill 1 million plus babies a year and not have it affect and trickle down to the rest of our culture was a moron. Abortion not only kills human beings, it affects everyone else. It's not some isolated decision or choice. Those of us born after 1973 might have escaped the abortion gauntlet, but we didn't escape all the effects of abortion. Today, we have an entire generation of individuals who have not been given a good reason to believe in their own value and inherent dignity. That's terrifying. The implications of that is terrifying. This is why right now, more than ever, we need to start having conversations on college campuses, in the pro-life movement, everywhere we go, about the value and the dignity and the inherent goodness of human life. Because people like Guy, who tried to blow up an IVF clinic and blew himself up in the process, people like, those girls I talked to at the University of Pittsburgh, literally do not know why they were created, who they were created by, and what they were created for. They believe that avoiding suffering is the ultimate good. It's not. They believe that killing someone who may suffer is a good thing because suffering is the ultimate bad, the ultimate evil, which it's not. It's part of the human condition to suffer. If you follow this anti-natalist logic philosophy, as that TikTok video just said, we will have ended civilization. Literally ended it, because none of us consented to be born. None of us consented to be born in the families we were born into, or the location, the geographic location, or the socioeconomic status. And by the way, yes, there's climate change, there's genocide, there's a bunch of terrible things that happen in our world. Those things have been happening since the beginning of time, including climate change. And they used to be a whole lot worse. Following up on this IVF clinic bombing story that I was just discussing, the White House is getting ready any day now to put out policy recommendations on how to expand IVF. This is per the executive order that President Trump issued in February, where he basically directed the Department of Health and Human Services to give him guidelines and ideas for how to expand access to IVF. I'm not sure what the final decision will be. I've been assured, or we're hoping, that it does not mean an insurance mandate, which would be absolutely unethical, because it would force us, because we're paying for a lot of people's insurance thanks to Obamacare, ACA, to now fund more life-ending practices. It's crazy that when you think about the cognitive dissonance that goes on, even within this administration, which has been a pretty pro-life administration when it comes to abortion, because IVF kills more children every year than abortion does. It doesn't make sense for an administration that's concerned with, natalism, per Elon Musk, and that has taken pro-lifers seriously when we talk about the violence and inequity of abortion, to ignore the human costs of IVF. I did a whole episode recently on the problems with IVF. Initially, when the Trump executive order came out in February, I recommend you going back and listening to that episode. It was pretty exhaustive, and we'll put the source links or whatever in the YouTube. But it's crazy. And the thing is, too, is like IVF doesn't even solve the problem that the Trump administration is trying to alleviate. Even if IVF were ethical and did not intentionally end the lives of human children, it is not an effective way to grow a family. The average woman doing IVF in the country is 36, because here's the deal. Women are told, go on birth control, deny your biology, have fun, make money, wait till later to have a family. But that doesn't make sense, because we should be having children in our 20s. That's when our eggs are the most viable. That's when we're at their most healthy state, right? So you have a whole generation of women who have been told, just do all that later. And by the way, then you can just pay us money, and then you can have kids later in life when you're like 36 or older. It doesn't work that way. You're literally being lied to. At that age, at age 36, a woman will only have a 32% chance of having a live birth after one IVF cycle. She'll have a 44% chance of having a live birth after 2 IVF cycles, and she gets up to a 50% chance after 3 IVF cycles. So that means after 3 IVF cycles, which would take months and years and cost up to $90,000 or more, she has a 50-50 chance of holding a baby in her arms. And by the way, she would have basically lost more than 20 children on average in the process of creating multiple children in embryonic form, screening them out, killing them, thawing, freezing them.
Supporting IVF over restorative reproductive medicine, RRM, is quite frankly a disservice to American women. It's once you hear some of these stats I'm about ready to go into, I guarantee you will be convinced that President Trump's push for IVF makes zero sense. Restorative reproductive medicine is not a fancy new alternative to IVF. It's simply a fancy name for a practice of actual medicine to diagnose and then treat the underlying causes of infertility in the first place, and it's been around for a very long time. RRM, in that process, a woman would go to her OBGYN, say, I'm unable to conceive. The doctor would do blood work to look at her hormone levels. He might teach her how to track her cycle correctly so she can observe patterns indicating certain conditions like PCOS or endometriosis. By the way, the majority of American women don't know how to do that. He could order ultrasounds to see what's going on with her anatomy, right? Once he diagnoses what's causing the infertility, he or she would work on treating the infertility. It might be as simple as changing her diet, taking supplemental hormones, understanding her cycle better, or possibly needing surgery to correct physical problems in her reproductive organs. Seems simple. And you're like, well, why wouldn't they be doing that, Kristan? Oh, maybe they're not doing it because it's not as effective. Nope. RRM is as effective as helping her conceive with IVF. And it's less evasive. And here's the reason why you don't know about it, it's pretty cheap. A lot of times it's like no money at all. Surely, I think a lot of us would say, surely if a woman's going to go through, to IVF clinic, she will have done all of these things. IVF's her last resort. Nope. And the vast majority of women seeking to get pregnant and who are experiencing infertility, they go to IVF first because that's the known brand. And only after IVF fails them and has hurt them physically, has exhausted their financial resources, do they ever even become aware that there is another way of diagnosing and treating their infertility. Most women do not know what RRM is or if that it's even an option. Most women only ever learn about it after all the IVF attempts have failed. And that's because, one, it's an industry. IVF is marketing to women constantly, right? But that's also because doctors don't even know that RRM is an option. Yes, in medical schools, OBGYNs are taught exhaustively about IVF, and they're told it's a first-time treatment option for infertility, not diagnosing and getting to the root of the problem. It doesn't make any sense. I know, trust me. Remember, IVF does not treat infertility. It does not cure infertility. It attempts to go around infertility, take the process of conception out of the human body and conduct it in a lab, and then sticks a bunch of children in your womb, hoping one of them sticks, or in a freezer lab, which we know more than 90% of them, once they're frozen, will never actually be born. As a woman, as a mother, it's confusing, it's angering that our healthcare system has this completely backwards. It's so anti-life, so anti-woman, that women are experiencing heartbreak and desperation of infertility, and they're not even being told the facts. They're not even being told that restorative reproductive medicine is an option for them to diagnose and treat in the first place. I talk a lot about the John Paul VI Institute in Omaha. I think it's incredible. It's holistic. It's ethical. I've had so many friends who aren't even Catholic going to the center who are like, wait a minute, I actually know of children who've been born because their families found somebody to tell them about going to the center that actually, practices what they call NAPRO technology, that's ethical, that's not expensive, that doesn't kill any human beings, that doesn't harm a woman's body, but actually gets to the root causes of infertility. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. We've had 50-some years of legal abortion, of the abortion industry profiting off of women, that there's another IVF industry that's also profiting off women, telling women to make bad decisions about their reproductive timelines. We got to go back all the way to the drawing board. That's what I would love to see the Trump administration do, and really talk about, if you want to make America healthy again, it ain't sending her to an IVF clinic.
It's not telling her to be on birth control for decades of her life. That is so opposite of the entire Maha message. President Trump's goal is good. He wants family formation. That is good. But IVF is not the answer. Forcing insurance companies to pay for IVF is not the answer, and it's immoral. Things that the Trump administration can do: permanently block Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry from getting any taxpayer funding, because they're the ones promoting this entire crazy myth from like middle school on. They're the ones telling young girls to get on birth control, which can sterilize them and harm their cycles. And they're the ones saying, oh, you can always have kids later. There's always time later. There isn't. There's a biological reality. They're the ones also destroying human life. They also can promote restorative reproductive medicine. There's a great piece of legislation that was just introduced recently called the Restore Act. It was introduced in the Senate, which would promote, I don't know, gasp, research and education on the leading cause of infertility, such as endometriosis, PCOS, uterine fibroids, blocked fallopian tubes, hormone imbalances. It would expand access to restorative reproductive medicine by supporting education and training through medical schools and through federal programs. It would develop educational tools for patients who are seeking more information about reproductive health conditions and RRM. It would provide training opportunities for medical professionals. It would direct federal agencies like HHS to collect data, update diagnostic codes, increase access to RRM and infertility care. It would encourage insurance coverages of the reproductive medicine, restorative reproductive medicine, similar to what Arkansas's Restore Act has done. It would promote alternatives by prioritizing treatments that address and heal underlying causes. That's just two things that the Trump administration can do. In short, President Trump, if you're tuning into my podcast, which I know you do, we can do something so much better for women and families. It's not IVF. IVF isn't a cure. It's an unethical mask of actual real problems with an industry that's preying off of desperation, harming women's bodies, killing babies, and making a profit while doing it. Hey Project Jen, it's Kristan here. And if you're like me, spring is a perfect time to do some spring cleaning around the house. And I can't think of a better way to refresh your space than with brand new, ultra soft bed sheets. Well, it does get better. With bed sheets that support saving babies. That's why I'm so excited to share with you that Students for Life America has teamed up with Cloud Bedsheet Fundraising to give $20 from every set of sheets you purchase directly to our pro-life mission. These sheets are high quality, ultra soft, and have a 99% satisfaction rate. And yes, I have them in my own home and I love them. It's so easy to be part of this. You head to 123fundraiser.com/life and choose from beautiful colors and the sizes that you need, and then you'll be making impact for life with every set of sheets you buy. Plus, they come with 100% satisfaction money back guarantee, so there's no risk, only reward. Shop now at 123fundraiser.com/life and help save babies with every cozy night's sleep you have. Thank you all for joining this episode of the Kristan Hawkins Show. I know it was a long one. We had a lot to go over. Make sure you subscribe and follow along for more discussions like this. And make sure you subscribe to my daily text line where you'll get a text from me Monday through Friday with your pro-life action item. Just text my name, Kristan, Kristan, to 53445. Until next week, keep speaking up for life, for the voiceless, and join us to defund Planned Parenthood.